A hushed whisper often trails through the ancient texts, a narrative thread, less explored, subtly woven into the fabric of the familiar. It's a story not typically recounted in Sunday school lessons or often highlighted from the pulpit, yet it holds a profound weight, inviting us to look beyond the surface of what we think we know. We've all heard the grand sagas, the creation, the Exodus, the parables of Jesus. But what about the undercurrents, the deeper currents of the spiritual drama that unfolds not just on earth, but in the unseen realms? What if the struggle for humanity's soul began long before Eden, etched into a cosmic blueprint by forces we rarely acknowledge? This isn't a tale of good versus evil in the simplistic terms we often imagine, but rather a complex, almost paradoxical struggle involving divine beings, rebellious choices, and an ultimate plan far grander and more intricate than often presented. Imagine, if you will, a time, before the dust of creation settled into recognizable forms, when the celestial courts buzzed with activity, populated by beings of immense power and brilliance. Among them stood a figure of unparalleled majesty and beauty, a cherub of exceptional design, perfect in wisdom and radiant in every facet. This was a being crafted with an almost unfathomable closeness to the divine, given a position of immense authority and a remarkable understanding of the cosmos. Yet, within this perfection, a subtle shift began to occur, a slow, almost imperceptible turning away from the source of all light. It wasn't a sudden rebellion fueled by hatred, but a more insidious creep of self-adoration, a desire to eclipse the very glory it was meant to reflect. This cherub, once a beacon, began to harbor a dangerous thought. Why serve when one could be served? Why reflect when one could originate? This burgeoning pride, subtle as a whisper in the vastness of eternity, started to reshape its very essence, marring the flawless design with the first tremor of dissent. It was a private struggle, perhaps at first confined to the recesses of a celestial mind, but its implications would echo through the ages, setting the stage for a drama that would eventually involve the entirety of creation, including humanity. This unfolding narrative suggests that the cosmic battle wasn't just about defiance. It was about the misuse of extraordinary gifts, the perversion of divine privilege, and the profound consequences of choosing self-exaltation over humble service to the ultimate creator. This internal transformation of the magnificent cherub, once known as Lucifer, was not destined to remain a private affair. The insidious pride that festered within soon blossomed into outright rebellion, a defiance against the very hierarchy and divine order that had granted him such splendor and power. This wasn't a mere disagreement. It was a cosmic usurpation, an ambition to elevate his own throne above the stars, to be like the Most High, as ancient scriptures subtly hint. And tragically, he was not alone in this audacious conceit. A portion of the celestial host, swayed by his charisma, his persuasive arguments, and perhaps by their own latent desires for greater autonomy, joined his cause. They formed a legion, not of darkness initially, but of misguided light, willing to challenge the ultimate authority. The result was a war unlike any imaginable, a conflict not fought with earthly weapons, but with spiritual forces, ideas, and loyalties. This was the original war in heaven, an epic clash of wills between divine righteousness and burgeoning rebellion. We catch glimpses of this profound struggle in prophetic visions, where the dragon, that ancient serpent, and his angels are cast out, losing their place in the heavenly realms. This expulsion was not merely a physical removal. It was a definitive spiritual separation, a tearing away from the divine presence and the harmonious order they once knew. Cast down to the earth, this once glorious being, now known as Satan, the adversary, along with his fallen legions, found a new battleground. The stage for the next phase of this cosmic drama was set in a pristine garden, untouched by strife, a paradise called Eden. Here, humanity, fresh from the Creator's hand, lived in innocent communion with their Maker, unaware of the vast, unseen conflict that had just spilled over into their newly formed world. This was where the great adversary, stripped of his celestial glory but not of his cunning or power, would launch his most devastating attack. His target was not God directly, for he knew that was a futile endeavor. Instead, his aim was to strike at God's beloved creation, humanity, made in the very image of the divine. By corrupting humanity, he sought to mar God's handiwork, to introduce disharmony and discord where there had been perfect unity. In Eden, the approach was subtle, cloaked in the guise of serpent, a creature known for its craftiness. There was no thunderous declaration of war, no open confrontation. Instead, there was a whisper, a question designed to sow seeds of doubt. Did God really say? This seemingly innocuous query was a poisoned dart, aimed at the very foundation of trust between Creator and created. It was an invitation to question divine wisdom, to believe that God was withholding something good, something that would elevate humanity to a higher state of being. You will be like God, knowing good and evil. The temptation was not just about a forbidden fruit. It was about autonomy, about defining good and evil for oneself, about a perceived path to godhood apart from the Creator. And in that fateful moment, humanity succumbed. The choice was made, not under duress, but through persuasion, a belief in the lie that freedom lay in defiance rather than in faithful obedience. This act of disobedience wasn't just a simple mistake. It was the entry point for sin, death, and separation into the human experience. The perfect relationship with the Creator was fractured. The pristine garden became a place of shame and exile, and humanity found itself entangled in the cosmic conflict, now a pawn in a larger spiritual war. This was the genesis of evil's profound influence on the human story, a struggle that continues to echo through every generation, marking humanity as a key battlefield in a conflict that began long before our earthly existence. The cosmic betrayal and humanity's fall in Eden were not the end of the story, nor did they catch the Creator by surprise. Indeed, interwoven into the very fabric of ancient prophecy and sacrificial rituals was a profound counterplan, a divine strategy for redemption that had been in motion long before the first human breath. This wasn't a reactive measure, but rather a deliberate, preordained response to a rebellion that the divine foresight already encompassed. From the very moment of humanity's transgression, a promise was whispered, a cryptic declaration that the seed of the woman would crush the head of the serpent. This single line, buried in the narrative of the fall, unveiled a future victory, hinting at a champion who would rise from humanity to confront the ancient adversary directly. This promise, shrouded in mystery, began to unfold through a lineage of chosen individuals and a nation set apart. We see it in the covenant with Abraham, where the promise of blessing to all nations through his descendants echoed the earlier prophecy. We witness its development through the intricate sacrificial system established under the Mosaic Law, a constant, bloody reminder of sin's gravity and the necessity of atonement. Every lamb slain, every offering presented, was a symbolic placeholder, a temporary covering for sin, pointing forward to a definitive, ultimate sacrifice. The very act of laying hands on the innocent animal, confessing sin, and witnessing its death underscored a profound truth. Without the shedding of blood, there could be no forgiveness. This complex ritual was not merely a set of archaic rules. It was a profound visual lesson, preparing humanity for the coming of a perfect, once-for-all atonement. The prophets, too, spoke of this coming redemption, their voices echoing through the centuries with visions of a suffering servant, a Messiah who would bear the sins of many, whose sacrifice would bring healing and peace. These were not random pronouncements, but meticulously detailed forecasts, painting a portrait of a Savior who would not come in earthly power and glory, but in humility, fulfilling the ancient types and shadows of the sacrificial system. And then, in the fullness of time, the ultimate unfolding of this cosmic plan burst forth into human history in the person of Jesus of Nazareth. His life, from his miraculous conception to his humble birth, echoed divine design. Yet, it was his death that served as the pivotal moment in this grand, cosmic narrative. The crucifixion was not a defeat, but the ultimate act of strategic victory. On that cross, the promised seed of the woman confronted the serpent head-on. There, the perfect, sinless Lamb of God offered himself as the final sacrifice, fulfilling every shadow and type of the Old Testament law. His shed blood was not merely symbolic. It was the actual, effective payment for humanity's rebellion, a ransom paid to reconcile a fallen creation with its righteous creator. But the story doesn't end with the cross. It climaxes with an event that shatters the very foundations of the adversary's power, the resurrection. If the crucifixion was the victory over sin, the resurrection was the definitive triumph over death itself, the ultimate weapon wielded by the ancient foe. When Jesus Christ emerged from the tomb, he did so not just as a revived man, but as the firstborn from the dead, demonstrating his absolute authority over life and mortality. This was the cosmic mic drop, the irrefutable proof that the divine plan of redemption had not been thwarted but gloriously completed. Death, once the undisputed victor, was swallowed up in victory. The sting of sin, which gave death its power, was removed. This resurrection signifies more than just a historical event. It is the cornerstone of a living hope. It means that the separation caused by the fall is now bridgeable, that the curse of death has been broken for all who believe. It affirms that the Creator's love and justice are perfectly intertwined, and that his original intent for humanity, to live in eternal relationship with him, remains powerfully in force. The story they never taught you in simple terms reveals a God who, far from being surprised by evil, had a redemptive strategy woven into existence from the very beginning, a plan culminating in a monumental victory that secures an eternal future for all who choose to embrace it. The victory achieved through the cross and the empty tomb, however, was not merely a historical event confined to the past. It initiated a new chapter in this cosmic narrative, one that extends into the present and shapes the future. With the power of sin and death broken, the path was cleared for the indwelling of the divine spirit, a transformative presence that empowers humanity to live a life aligned with the Creator's original design. This profound spiritual renewal, often referred to as the new birth, signifies a restoration of the fractured relationship, an inner cleansing that begins to reverse the effects of the fall on an individual level. It means that the inherent human struggle with temptation, though still present, is no longer insurmountable. The power that raised Christ from the dead is now available to overcome the very influences that led to humanity's initial downfall. This empowerment is not for individual benefit alone. It is part of a larger, ongoing mission. The story they never taught you reveals that humanity, once a casualty in this spiritual war, is now called to be an active participant on the side of light. This isn't about physical warfare, but a spiritual battle waged in the unseen realms, fought with prayer, truth, righteousness, and the proclamation of the redemptive message. Every act of compassion, every choice to forgive, every stand for justice, and every word shared about this profound truth contributes to the dismantling of the adversary's influence in the world. It's a call to live out the victory of the cross in daily life, demonstrating the transformative power of divine love in a world still grappling with the consequences of ancient rebellion. The ultimate conclusion of this epic narrative is yet to fully unfold, but its final chapters are clearly foretold. The ancient adversary, though defeated in principle at the cross, continues his futile resistance, knowing his time is short. However, prophecies speak of a day when the ultimate authority of the Creator will be fully and undeniably established across all creation. This will be a time of complete restoration, where every knee will bow and every tongue confess the ultimate sovereignty of the one who initiated and completed the redemptive plan. The forces of rebellion will be definitively vanquished, and all evil will be finally quarantined, never again to corrupt or deceive. In that future, a new heaven and a new earth are promised, a realm cleansed of all tears, sorrow, and pain, a return to a pristine state, yet even more glorious than the first. It will be a time when humanity, fully redeemed and reconciled, will dwell in perfect harmony with the Creator, experiencing an unbroken communion far surpassing even the intimacy of Eden. This isn't merely a return to innocence. It's an elevation to a glorified existence, where the lessons learned through the long journey of rebellion and redemption will forge a deeper, more profound relationship with the divine. This grand narrative, often left in the shadows, underscores a powerful message that the universe is not a chaotic accident, nor is the human condition a random struggle. Instead, it is a meticulously crafted drama, a testament to an unwavering divine love and justice that has orchestrated a cosmic plan from before the dawn of time, culminating in a triumphant victory that offers an eternal hope to all. It's a story that invites us not just to believe, but to participate, to find our place within this unfolding saga of light overcoming darkness, and to embrace the incredible truth that the most significant chapters of our existence are intrinsically linked to a battle and a victory far grander than we could ever imagine. And that, truly, is the Bible story they never fully taught you.